back to Wide Awake Radio. And Joe and Pete, I know you're both on the line, so if we're just us for the last half hour, no other breaks. Sunflower, Walter's friends, I wrote down these questions, and I'll try to get to them before the end of the show. Pete, you're saying you're seeing people trying to get mortgages or trying to make short sale offers, and they're having absolutely no luck. Okay, I'm going to change subject a little bit here because a few people in the chat room are already asking me how come PD Lumina isn't putting out videos anymore. Now, the last video you put out that I watched, you explained why, but why don't you go ahead and quickly explain to the listeners why you've been posting some stuff, but you're not making as many videos right now.
Okay, well, long story short, it was a culmination of events. One, I'm currently battling my landlord, and that's going to be consuming a lot of my time. I also had a video up on it, and I figured it'd be wise to take that down. Two, I'm sure you know, Charlie, it's really stressful to, go over and pour over all these facts, and it can really affect you, if you get too entrenched with it. And it was getting to the point where I was letting my business slip a little bit, and where you just don't sleep as well at night. So I just figured I'd really take a break for a little while, and I hope to be back at it, but right now where things are kind of just mundanely slogging along, it's not something that I really have time for, I guess.
Well, I certainly can't blame you. I've spoke in videos and on this radio program about the combat fatigue is what I think it's akin to is when your head's in this stuff all day long. And in my case, I'm like you. I have a day job. In fact, I just received a nice promotion, and I'll be moving locations here in the next month and a half or so. And it's tough. You're trying to balance. You have a job. You're holding on for all your worth, but you really see what's happening, especially you in California. I'm somewhat blessed because in Montana, and Joe, maybe even in Philly, because of a lot of government money has ended up on the East Coast. But I'm somewhat lucky because I still live in an area that's considered a destination. So, even though our unemployment rate is up, we're far below the national average. And one thing we also have going for us is we're the fourth largest state land-wise, 700 miles wide, but we have under 1 million people population. So, in some ways, I'm lucky because I can see the economy getting worse here, but when I travel to Denver, when I go out to Oregon, I see what most of the nation is really dealing with, which is, no other way to describe it, is depression. Seeing that and reporting on it, doing videos on it, talking about it on the radio, I got to flick a switch, and then when I do my day job, try to focus on that. And sometimes they overlap, and sometimes it's not good. So taking a break once in a while is certainly understandable. Joe, we talked about the three layers of fraud in this mortgage gate. Did you have anything else you wanted to cover on that subject?
Well, yeah. Ultimately, the fraud has been on the back of one group of people.
Right, us.
Pretty obvious which group of people it is.
Sheep.
Middle class. Okay, because the bankers aren't taking the loss. They went to the Treasury and they got some money. The AIG went to the government and they got some money. So, when you're layering fraud, and let's talk about MERS a little bit more, when you're layering fraud and you're gaming the system, what do you want to do? You want to layer the fraud. In other words, you want to make it so convoluted that nobody understands what's going on. It's kind of like election fraud. Okay? So if you corrupt the information in the computer to rig an election, you can make the election the outcome of anything you want, right?
Yes.
Same thing with mortgage fraud.
Well, absolutely, and that's why it's even a misnomer just to call it foreclosure fraud. And when you have the media coming out saying that it's just a matter of notaries fraudulently notarizing documents, that's even disingenuous by the mainstream media because it goes so much deeper than that. You start talking about securitizing and then turning them into derivatives. The fraud runs all the way to the very beginning. So basically what you're saying is, like a lot of other alternative media sites are saying, we're just seeing the beginning of the next round of bailouts.
More than that. Okay. If your documents, the scanned documents, are on a computerized system such as MERS, right?
Right.
Then you can manipulate what that system has without a record. Because there is no paper record. It's whatever the record you want it to be.
Right.
That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, and that's the whole. That's the crux of the foreclosure gate.
That's correct.
They don't have the. And what I'm thinking we're going to see happen, Joe, and Pete, chime in if you have a thought on this. What I think we're going to see is, the Congress has already passed legislation to make it legal to keep fraudulently foreclosing on people. The president pocket vetoed it, but that only means it's on hold. So we're going to see the election here, the tsunami election, and I think we're going to see either some kind of legal wrangling by Congress and the president to make it legal for this fraudulent practice to continue, or we're going to have TARP 2.
Well, they haven't changed the rules to anything either. They said they passed financial reform and all this, and I'll give you a funny little thing that I just found out. I was looking on my commodities trading account the other day, and I saw a new tab under the options, and there are actually put and call options for the weekly jobless report. You could actually put a bet on Wall Street based on what you think the jobless numbers are going to be. I mean, if that doesn't just scream insanity. Yeah, at this day and age,
Las Vegas.
Yeah, it's and all these fake devices have been brought up. Nothing's been reformed. What they did is they made a huge fluff piece. They called it reform, wink and a nod, and gave the bankers everything that they asked for. So it's going to be a meltdown part 2 eventually. And I mean, are they going to be smart enough to let it go and let everything reset to where it's going to be? I mean, I don't think so.
Well, I think I think what we'll see is, a few days ago I did the broadcast and opened up with this wave election is really going to be a tsunami, and we're going to see austerity that we see in Spain and in Greece and Ireland, now in France with rioting, and now going to be in England with the massive layoffs there, the massive budget cuts there. Well, our tsunami election is going to lead to demand for austerity, and they're going to have the mandate. They're going to be able to say, look, all the Democrats were kicked out of the House and out of the Senate because the country wants austerity, and that's where you're going to start to see things like the bailouts that have already occurred and already happened. The banks don't need any more money, so they will let the thing fall apart to some level. But then all the people who are sitting in foreclosed house will be demonized, and the idea of going after the banks will no longer be vogue.